Welcome to another Abundance Series episode. And today I'm going to walk through a training session I just did inside my Facebook group that I'm running for my Ignite Your Second Half Soul video series training. So the video series hasn't released yet. It's going to release in a couple of days. So if you're listening to this as soon as it releases this podcast episode, you can still get in there. Just go to igniteyoursecondhalfsoul.com. And if you miss it, then we're going to be taking people. I mean, it's going to start on Sunday, but we're going to still be taking people for, I think, at least another week or 10 days because it's all pre-recorded and you can watch it. It's going to be up for another 2 weeks after it is released. And then it closes. I'll be doing it again in the fall. So if you miss it, you can just get on the wait list if you miss it, if you're listening to this episode later. But I run a Facebook group for a couple of weeks while people are joining. And I don't like people just sit there bored with nothing to do and then they forget about it. And I love to share and have fun and get people start thinking before we even actually do the main event, if you want to call it that. So I did question prompts the first week where I asked them some questions. And then this past week, I did a 2-part workshop, which was pretty incredible. So the people are like having some breakthroughs, which I really love. And that's even before the whole video series starts. So I'm super excited that they're going to like leave this training with probably a transformation of some sort. But one of the exercises with the word prompts that I did last week was to think of 3, and you can do this. So I encourage you to do this. It's a fun little exercise. So think of 3 words to describe yourself. But the rule is, and you have to play by the rules, you can't cheat. The rule is that you cannot think about it. It's like the first thing that comes to your mind, the first 3 words that come to your mind, and it's hard for sometimes people, like they're in a group and they don't want to like be brutally honest. And then they see what they're influenced by what other people put. So, but your 3 things, and it was really great because somebody was like, she put 3 words and she goes, well, that wasn't the first thing I thought, but I'm too embarrassed, or you don't want to hear, I don't want to bring the group down, or she said something like that. And so we were like, no, seriously. I mean, the exercise is not going to really work if you're not really honest. And so she was honest, and they were not good words. They were negative words. They're not words that you should be speaking to yourself. So it was a really good exercise. So 3 words, and then they had to go ask a friend. So the next day they had to come back having asked a friend that, or a family member or somebody that they trust who knows them well, and to give 3 words. And so very interesting and very insightful. A lot of insights gained through that process. But what I'm going to do in this episode today, it'll be powerful, I think, is I'm going to read to you the words. And the reason why I decided this would be a good episode for abundance is because I think, when you're trying to operate with an abundant mindset, you look for the joy. That's what I believe is, abundance to me is looking for the joy in the smallest things, in the everyday, in what might be the mundane, being happy with what you have. But words are a part of being abundant to me. You want to use words that make you feel contented, that make you feel joyful, that make you feel happy with where you are. And when you use words, and they might be the truth to you, but you need to find a better truth. You need to start looking for the things. You maybe a word that you believe is, and it's funny because a lot of people when describing themselves, they would use physical traits to describe themselves in a negative way. And what's funny is when their friends describe them, there was like, I think 2 instances of physical traits being used. And one of them was describing the color of her hair. So clearly the person that was giving her the feedback was somebody who liked the color of her hair. So yeah. And so it stands out because it was red hair. This is what she said, is red hair. So, but I think it's really important that you look for words that better words. Look for better words. I mean, maybe you think like, let's use a word of, let's find one doormat. Somebody used the word doormat. So maybe you think that, maybe you That's your truth. That's your truth. Find another word another word. Those are the first three that come to mind, and do the exercise. Don't reflect, just do the exercise, like I said. But then after you do it, reflect back and then think, okay, those are the three things that came to mind. Well, if one of them is not good, or if all three of them aren't good, let's find some other words that I also believe that are still the truth, but let's focus on those. Because to me, what's being abundant is finding the things that make you feel good. And the first things that come to mind, if they don't make you feel good, then dig a little deeper and find things that do make you feel good. And that brings more abundance. All right. So I thought when I was doing this training, I was like, oh my gosh, this will be really, I think it's a good message. So we're going to start. I have a whole page of non-abundant words. And then I have a page of words that were shared. And I'm going to share all the beautiful words that came from their friends. All right. And then I have a couple of tips, or like just reflections about the after you hear the words. All right. So here are the words that people use to describe themselves. And let me also say that there were some positive words. There were a lot of positive words. But what was interesting is that in many cases, the first two were positive and then the last one was negative. So I thought that was very interesting. They were like, oh, well, there's this one thing, because sometimes we just don't want to be complimentary to ourselves. We think that's being conceited, and it's not. It's being loving. It's self-love, right? All right. So here we go. Confused, tired, frustrated, overwhelmed, crying, unreliable, blah, hypochondriac, cautious, stuck, moneyless, lost, unmotivated, lonely, worrisome, guarded, bored, inactive, unfocused, unstructured, unsure, moody, overweight, scattered, stressed, anxious, fat, burned out, indecisive, old, angry, ugly, not enough, frustrated, negative, depressed, self-critical, procrastinator, lazy, melodramatic, overprotective, insecure, trodden, selfish, useless, hopeless, unattractive, dull, oversensitive, yearning, doormat, perfectionist, too nice. So those are the words that I captured from some of the people that are being honest, that are in my Ignite Your Second Half Soul training. And so the next step was share what your friend said about you. So that is what I will turn to now and share with you. Okay, here we go. And again, this is the list of the 3 words that one of their good friends shared with them. All right. So these are the words I found. I deduped everything because there were some, with a large group that I have, there were some dupes. And so, but I've tried to make them all the unique ones. All right, here we go. Reliable, fun, outgoing, good heart, generous, kind, practical, caring, loyal, good woman, hard worker, knowledgeable, organized, analytical, fun, creative, loving, supportive, inspiring, beautiful, warrior of Christ, passionate, complex, artistic, thoughtful, lovable, kind-hearted, generous, philosophical, straightforward, intelligent, direct, crazy, strong, optimistic, persistent, interested, crunchy, shy, cheerful, happy, intense, wordsmith, wise, talented, focused, trustworthy, giving, sincere, gentle, calming, abrupt, thorough, funny, nice, listener, helpful, outspoken, considerate, Christian, energetic, good-humored, leader, biblically tenacious, faithful, hopeful, smart, resilient, compatible, outgoing, empathetic, healthy, red hair, family oriented, animal lover, adventurous traveler, enthusiastic, quirky, calm, impulsive, driven, giving, always on the go, nurturing, patient, attention to detail, responsible, has mouth, dynamic, capable, witty, ingenious, tolerant, mom, grounded, friend, nutty, stubborn, busy, diligent, sweet, engaged, action, beautiful soul, smiling, curious, inclusive, kind spirited, unique, problem solver. And then there were two of these last ones, which might be in the not so positive category, scattered and worrier. So I saved those for last because I want to talk about them. All right. So wasn't that like so much more abundant? It was like made me feel happy and joyful when I read those words. But what's interesting is that sometimes words mean different things to different people. And an example was when the word impulsive. So the woman who received this from her friend was like, I'm not sure what that means, or I was surprised by that. And so I looked it up. I Google words all the time. So I looked up what the synonyms were for impulsive. And the words for impulsive are passionate, uninhibited, spontaneous. So check in with the definition and check in with the synonyms, because what your friend is telling you from their perspective, impulsive probably is a good trait, means something positive, right? So we always have to check in with our perceptions. I've talked about this before, where on my podcast, if you've been with me for a while, and if you haven't, go back and look for some of these episodes, but it's about like, the words and the thoughts that you have are based on your perceptions, your experiences, your belief system. And so somebody who is speaking, and especially who's a different sex, because men think very differently than women, and every person has a different experience and different background and different relationship with words than you do. The words that you are speaking, some words, like a word might trigger me that you think nothing of. A word you love might trigger somebody else. So like I thought of the word quirky that came up. Well, I think quirky is amazing. I love that word, because to me, that's like means somebody who's special, somebody who stands out, somebody who's different than the pack. And I hold a very high value of being different and being unique and standing in your own light and shining it bright. And so, but some people who are trying to blend in and they want to be like everybody else and be accepted, quirky might not be the best word. So I also wanted to speak to scattered. So because scattered, and I thought that was really funny, because I thought on some days I feel scattered, and my husband would probably describe me that way. But when you're juggling a million things, as us moms often do, we become great at multitasking as moms, don't we? So even though my kids are gone, sometimes I still find myself juggling many things. I just like, maybe that's my comfort zone, like to do. But scattered is probably, it could be that it has some connotation with it, that you're busy, you're all over the place, running from here or there, getting so much done, so you don't know, right? And then worrier is interesting. So I think sometimes a really good friend might reveal something to you. So I think this exercise is so great because of what you could learn about yourself. So, and it doesn't necessarily mean that that's fact. It means that this is that person's perception. Maybe this person has never, maybe you don't think you worry a lot, but you've been around a lot of worriers in your life. Like your mother worried way more than you do, but you still like worry and let worriness occupy a lot of your thoughts. Maybe this person wasn't around worriers, So maybe this person is like, I've never met anybody as worrier or as you. But check in with that and reflect on it. These are all great words to reflect on and dig in. Like what does that word really mean? What is my belief behind that word? And what can I do differently? Like maybe for worrier, you want to check in with, am I spending too much of my time worrying about something that hasn't even happened? And likely 99.9% possibility is not going to happen. So I have family members. My mother-in-law is a big worrier. And she stresses out so much about the things that never happen. And so there are ways in which to reduce your worriness, but one of it is just catching it, being aware of it, and knowing. And the pandemic, I think that made us all worriers. And people, if you were worried before the pandemic, you're probably 10 times more worried. It did not help those of us who are worriers. And when you have kids, you worry. You worry about, oh, they're going to get their driver's license. Oh my God, what's going to happen to them? Oh, they're going to go off to college, and I won't have any visibility into what they're doing. Oh, those date rape drinks. Oh my God. Those weren't around when I was young, but man, they started coming out when my daughters were younger. So yeah, all those worries. Yeah. So that maybe it was a husband who was saying to his wife, you worry too much. You're a worrier. But the point of this exercise, I wanted to point out these words because you might experience somebody coming back with you with a word that is like, well, I didn't feel so abundant. Because my purpose of this was saying we do not speak abundantly to ourselves in many cases, but other people look at us with like abundance and like words that make us feel good, that would bring joy. If we said those words to us every day, most of these would bring us joy. But you might get some feedback. So a little coaching here. That isn't something that is like what you're expecting, what you might agree with, or it might reveal something, but that is a gift. And so when you can look at it, so when you receive that, the abundance mindset looks at words that are are given to you with love. The person is, you ask them for feedback, they're giving it to you honestly. And also the rule was with the friend, first three things that come to mind, first three, that they had to do that as well. They couldn't think of, oh, let me think about it for a few minutes, let me get back to you tomorrow. They can't do that. They have to immediately, soon, when you just spit it out. And so they're speaking with honesty. And so like put abundance around that word. Like what can I learn from this word? What does it reveal that I can be abundant about? Right? So look for the abundance in it. So yeah, the other thing that I want to speak to too is that these like are disempowering words that we say to ourselves. Not only are they not abundant, they're disempowering. And so you want to have powerful words that, give you pleasure and joy. That speaks to the abundance as well. What else? What I thought was interesting as well was a lot of the physical attributes in someone was on the first page. I think I spoke to that at the beginning. So the only two physical attributes here were red hair and has mouth. And that was the same person. So those are two of the three of the same persons. And so I'm like, definitely that probably is maybe a male, because of like somebody who's like you're dating or your spouse, I don't know, or it's your friend who loves your hair and your lipstick is jealous of because she has red hair, she said. So yeah, so who knows what's going on with that, but I wouldn't see that as non-abundant. It's definitely abundant because most people love red hair. Yeah, so ask more questions, reflect in this process. How are these words making me feel that are coming up for me? How do the words that my friend shared with me make me feel? And what words can I choose to operate in a state of abundance that makes me happy, that gives me joy, that makes me feel contented with where I am right this moment. And sometimes these words are a reveal of what a limiting belief is underlying that word. So, and what that means is that when you have a thought that is creating a block or an obstacle in your life, these words are usually kind of a doorway into that thought. So if you're thinking, for example, I am unstructured, for example, I am unstructured. Maybe that's a disorganized, so the thought beneath that might be, I am so disorganized, I can never get it together. So another thing is the doormat. I use the doormat example. I say yes all the time. People are walking all over me. So that word, pay attention to that word, because that word has a thought around it and beneath it. If it's a negative thought, it's not serving you. It's blocking you. Perfectionist, that's one. Oh, I didn't get this right. I made a mistake. Oh my God. I'm a failure. So these words can teach us a lot. And I thought it was a great exercise with the people in the training that I'm working with. And it aligns very nicely with abundance, because I feel like changing these words is changing everything. Changing these words that are coming up and constantly thinking about is not going to create an abundant mindset, is not going to bring you more joy. And that is what I'm trying to, step into with this series, is living myself abundantly and then thinking of ways that I can help you live more abundantly. So I hope this has helped. I would love for you to do the exercises and then share with me, reach out on social media and say, these are my words. This is what words I got back. And a lot of people had really 3 positive words when they describe themselves. So not everybody has the first 3, but I would check in with that and say, were you trying to please a teacher, or were they really the first 3 thoughts that came to mind? So, right. So you want to find out what that word is that crops up that might not be in the abundant category. All right. So thanks a lot for joining, and see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning into the Not Your Average Lives podcast. If you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe on iTunes if you have an Apple device. You can find free resources and learn what else I have going on at the moment that might interest you on my website at notyouraverage.grandma.com. You can also find me on Instagram or Facebook at Not Your Average Grandma. If you liked this episode, it would make my heart so happy if you could leave me a 5-star rating. You can also add a review to let me know what you like about this podcast, which will help spread the word about it to others who need a little midlife inspiration. As always, be you, listen to your inner voice, and focus on reigniting that lost spark so you can start living your own Not Your Average life.